What's going on, guys? Welcome to the next episode of Shaws and Kings. It's your boy Shaheen, always out here with Keith and Weapon X, aka Farnoosh, which is his real name. And today we thought we'd actually talk about social media, right? Because I think, obviously, if you're listening to this podcast, you've probably discovered us using social media, and it's a pretty big fucking thing that's in our lives right now, right? Whether you use it to interact with your friends or get very informative political information on it, or or maybe you're just looking for new music, whatever it may be, right? Because a lot of people, they discover new like content they like on social media, but like social media, it has its pros and it has its cons, and we're trying to figure out really is it worth it, right? Are the pros worth it? Like, because you could argue that it's having catastrophic consequences to society as a whole, to the individual, right? And also um our American democracy, Western democracy, potentially Eastern democracy, right? It's doing a lot. You got, especially with the way these algorithms are set up, it's doing a lot of damage. It's sort of designed for you to stay on the apps, right? Like and it's something like, it's like a tag that you carry on with you now, right? Like we all have Facebook, we all have Instagram, maybe Twitter, and it's like an opportunity for human beings to take control of like their own image, right? Because image is something that's so important to every human being. Like every human being cares about their image. Like all these people are like, I don't care what people think about me, but I mean, to a certain extent we do. And I think that's like with social media, it exploits that weakness because it gives us that opportunity to make our lives cooler than it really is. It gives us a chance to like, make us look more jacked, or more lean, or if you're a girl, like, skinnier and hotter than you really are. No offense. And
Hey man, women can be jacked too. It's
yeah.
2020. Come on now.
Right. So
Yeah, I could go for a jacked woman.
so listen, man, I just think, like,
uh,
we're now, it's November 17th. It's been 2 weeks since the election. And regardless of the outcome, you have one side of the country that incorrectly believes that this was completely rigged and that this was a deep state attempt to steal an election from our president, Donald Trump. And, all jokes aside, like, that's a huge problem. That's a huge problem.
Well, this was probably the election where I can say, no matter what your beliefs are, that it was most swayed by social media. Social media definitely played probably the biggest influence in this election that it probably has in any other election for a
Mhm.
multitude of reasons,
Mhm.
whether it was just the PR, the package of the candidate, whether it was trying to sway the public into thinking into one way or the other. Um, it really, really had a strong influence on how, not just on the outcome of the election, but just in general, the state of the state of the union, as it will. It brought people together, and it also divided people at the same time throughout this, whether it was the BLM movement
Wait, you're saying
or
social
whether
media brought people together?
well, it did bring people together too, because as much as it caused division in terms of different groups presenting their viewpoints or propaganda, depending on your viewpoint, it also brought people together because when people did get together to protest, when people did get together to combat social injustice, a lot of the ways that we were able to transmit that information to each other and put each other on to what was going on was based on platforms and social media. So yeah, it caused
Absolutely.
division, and it caused union at the same time, which is again why we're having this discussion here. Is it really worth it? Are we looking? We're looking at the pros, we're looking at the cons, and there's definitely plenty of them from both sides.
Yeah. How about you, Keith?
Social media. It's so great, isn't it?
Yeah.
I don't know. I have mixed feelings on it. Like on one hand, and I haven't watched the Social Dilemma yet, so I'm sure you guys will spoil some stuff for me from it because you've probably seen
Everyone
it.
dies.
Um, Fantastic. That's the future I want. Thanos was right. No.
He kind of was.
On one hand, yeah, it's like it makes like communication, sharing ideas, coming together in like certain groups that hold certain beliefs easier,
Yeah.
but it also creates echo chambers for pretty much anything. It doesn't even necessarily have to be political.
Mm.
It can be a religious thing. It can be, um, if you believe that the Anunnaki created the pyramid, there's a group for that on Facebook. Like there's
Mm.
all kinds of shit that you can
Shout out
find.
to Zachariah Sitchin.
Oh God.
Don't get me started.
It's a different podcast for a different time.
Yes. Alex Jones.
Oh yeah, but yeah, I think it's one of those things, and I'm not probably that well educated to speak on that particular thing, but it's one of those things where the intent behind it was completely different than what it ended up becoming, kind of.
This is just a dude who wanted some pussy.
Like
You know what I mean? This was just a dude at Harvard. Was it
Right?
Harvard or Yale?
yeah,
Like when Mark Zuckerberg,
Harvard.
did he go to
I'm
Harvard?
pretty sure.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
this
We
dude
were
just
talking
wanted
about
some.
Facebook, yeah.
Yeah,
for
this dude just
Facebook, yeah, I'm
wanted.
pretty
This
sure it was
dude just
Harvard.
wanted some pussy, dude. That's all he wanted. And the next thing you know, he ended up creating this massive machine that might end democracy as we know it. But I mean, look, like these ideas that we see on social media, on Facebook and Twitter, like these crazy conspiracy theories, whether it's QAnon or just information that's just flat out wrong. I mean, like they've always existed, right? Before like these last few years. It just seems like with these current algorithms on social media, it's designed so you only see what you actually want to see. Like these social media algorithms, they know you more than you know yourself. So ultimately, like because like I'm my political views are more left leaning. On my Facebook feed, I'm gonna see like a lot of like left leaning content. And like Keith here, he's more center right, so like he's gonna see more like libertarian conservative content. And even if we have the same exact friend list, and me and Keith, we went to the same high school, same graduating class, so a lot of our friends list actually looks pretty similar, right? But we see different content on each other on our own feed, and I think like that's a huge issue. And again, it's I don't know if it'll lead to violence now, but I feel like we're already heading there because especially with with Donald Trump, he's basically endorsing these conspiracy theories outright, uh, overtly lying about the election results, and this will lead to violence. I mean, like I can't see a scenario where that doesn't lead to violence. I don't know. And the problem is like as time goes on, like this isn't getting any smaller. I mean, these apps, this technology is advancing at an accelerating rate, and I don't know what the solution to this stuff is. And so I mean, like, I was thinking today of the movie I, Robot, because like I'm sure we've all seen it. Basically,
Right.
technology overpowers us and we go to war with robots, right? But and maybe that movie did kind of predict what's going on now, except even though we're not fighting actual robots yet. I mean these Facebook and Instagram and Twitter, man, like these things like they know us more than we know ourselves. That's nuts. Like,
They
that's
are an
nuts.
operating form of AI.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the way it's contributing and helping the divide, furthering the divide in people. And I know I just see it as the biggest contributor to our downfall.
Well,
Like,
definitely. It's a big instigator. I mean, it's gotten to the point where Facebook and Instagram and the algorithms are almost able to predict exactly what it is that you're thinking. And it's, and they're definitely listening. At this point, it's not even disputable. I could pick up we could pick up our cellular device right now and just utter the words wedding ring, wedding ring, wedding ring about 10 times. I guarantee you, next morning when you pick up your phone and you're randomly scrolling through your social media, there'll be some random ad about something that applies to an approaching wedding or a wedding advertisement, even if it's not a wedding ring, something that's appealing to that aspect of what it predicted that you may be looking for, what it thought it would be. So I think that's a pretty scary thought.
Yeah, even stuff that you think about sometimes. Like I didn't even say, like if you don't say it out loud, it's like it predicts the shit you like anyway.
Oh
Even if you
yeah.
haven't said it out loud, and it'll come up in an ad, or it's like
right.
fucking weird. But I think on one hand, like yeah, this like the way the social media platforms are set up, it kind of precludes that you'll get filtered content that may not necessarily be good one to get. Like it's going to be filtered in a way that's going to make extremists out of some people or create certain viewpoints that aren't necessarily factually true. But I think a part of that is, I mean, yeah, it's partially on the social media platform, I guess, but their responsibility isn't to like cater content either. Like we also have to accept that we should be looking into things probably more than we do to see
Mhm.
if what we're actually being shown is accurate instead of I think there's too much of a like we're almost too wired to react to shit quickly because of the way the social media is instead of like being self-reflective and looking at what shit actually is versus what we're being shown.
Absolutely.
Um, yeah, it's a tough one, and I, I mean, but I think
Like
I
the
mean,
best
like, yeah,
example I can give is probably like so for example, like I get, libertarian memes making fun of Trump pretty frequently coming up on my shit. But then like I was looking at I think it was on TikTok and it was like interviews from somebody had put together from Trump and like listening to him talk like in ways that wasn't just him blabbering about shit. And I was like, I've never heard him say these things.
Mhm.
Not that he's a good president, but like if he had talked like this his entire presidency, he would have come across as less of a piece of shit than he actually did. Like it was weird. Like I was just, and I would
yeah,
have never seen that if I hadn't like opened up that app at that time and then they had, shit like that where it's interesting.
well,
What you
you
can
know,
see
yeah,
sometimes.
absolutely. I think like when you said like these social media apps, like like these people who run these apps, like they're not here to like cater to us, but at the same time, I think eventually for the common good of society. I mean, I don't. There's this whole debate of censorship right now, right? And I think Mark Zuckerberg
Mhm.
and a few people testified in Congress today, right? And I didn't listen to it much. I didn't really listen to it, but what I think don't I mean, doesn't it become a public hazard eventually when a significant if I can convince, like, if I'm so good at convincing people, let's say I have like a gift of persuasion, right? And I can convince you that wearing a mask actually gives you coronavirus. Like the mask actually produces coronavirus, right? And like,
Mhm.
let's say
Yeah.
people believe that. Like, let's say I'm so good at persuading people that a significant portion of the population, like over 50% of the population, start to believe it. So they walk around not like just not wearing the mask and then just getting everyone sick. Um, Eventually, like, that's gonna create a public hazard. that as a society we're gonna have to kind of deal with.
Mhm.
So,
Oh, you're
what
breaking up.
breaking up? Okay, can you hear me now?
Oh, you're
Yeah,
back. You're back now. You're
you're
good.
Back.
back.
Okay.
All
What
right.
I was saying, what I was just simply saying was, again, like if if I can persuade more than 50% of the population that wearing a mask actually gives you coronavirus, that creates a public hazard. And then you got to think, like, where do we draw that line between like freedom of speech and censorship? Where obviously we're not going to, like, I'm not proposing we jail anyone for speaking their mind or speaking their opinions, but on social media, it's like, I mean, these are private companies at the end of the day. So can you say, like, do they have like some sort of a responsibility to like make sure this information doesn't just flow out there?
I don't do mostly because I mean they're private. They can operate how they want as long as the government doesn't regulate something about that. But the whole like the Second Amendment censorship thing shouldn't even be a conversation. I don't think. Like
Second or
the
first?
First Amendment should, or sorry, First Amendment. Um, it's not something that should be regulated because everyone's ideas should be put out there for everyone to see. You shouldn't have hidden little corners of things that are like slight and then other people don't like are like trapped in just seeing that one thing. Like bad ideas should be brought to the light in the same way that good ideas should be so that everyone gets to see them. It's not like you shouldn't have anything that's hidden necessarily.
Yeah,
So I don't know. I don't know how
but
I feel about the censorship thing. You know what I
hmm,
mean? Because on one hand, like yeah, that situation could happen, but I don't know if humans are that stupid. Like,
I
I feel
think
like
they
they
are.
should be given the chance to like
I
make that
I
decision
mean,
themselves.
I
Yeah,
think
well,
I
Trump
mean,
proved that they are.
yeah, no, but
But
like said, he did, like I thought, listen, up until 2016, I really thought, listen, we should like there should be none of this. Humans are smart enough. We're not. I mean, we're morons, but we're not like that. We're not that bad. And then Trump got elected, and I'm like, oh, and it's like, yeah, but fine, just go ahead.
I was just gonna say, well, I agree to a certain extent with Keith is saying in terms of things being able to be put out there, ideas being able to be put out there uncensored. The question now comes in is, well, the question now that comes rather is when people do put these ideas out there, is it now morally justified for these independent companies and corporations to take these ideas and sell them to manipulate other people? Because that's really what's happening now. They're taking our ideas, they're using them to manipulate emotions within others, almost like a form of psychological warfare, alluding to again what Shaheen was referring to in terms of being a public threat in certain ways. And at that point, where do we draw the line? Now, obviously, I'm not for censorship either. I think I'm pretty clear where my stance on censorship is. But at this point, if I put out my information, who's to say that somebody else has the right to take it in order to um, influence somebody else into doing uh, anything really? Like if I put my thoughts there, who's to say that they can't take those, manipulate them in some form or fashion, put that on social media to appeal to other groups, and in a manner that would be harmful to other people?
Well, again though, like the thing is, Farnoosh, like let's say you had a massive platform, right? Now, like let's say you're like you have like 100,000 followers on Twitter, and a lot of people listen to what you say. Like you're an influencer, right? You're a rapper. People value your opinions. And you're basically going on Twitter and you're using your platform deliberately to misinform people, to further your own agenda, whether that's political or career agenda, whatever that is. And people are eating it up. And let's say you're like just lying, and you're putting like just harmful information out there, and just people are eating it up. And because you already have a big platform, like the algorithm already favors you by design, because like they know, because again, the algorithm is designed for you to stay on the app. So it's going to show you not just like, it's going to show you like content that they think is like is like engagement worthy, which is people who have a big following, right? Because if someone famous posts something on Instagram or Twitter, a bunch of people are going to engage on that piece of content. So if you post uh QAnon conspiracy theories on your let's so-called huge Instagram or Twitter platform, a democracy works assuming that we have an informed populace, right? But
Right.
I just think that the issue that I'm seeing, like, yes, we were divided. There were Democrats, Republicans, Libertarians, Green Party. Like that was never the issue. Like having a variety of opinions is fine, but I think the issue is just we're seeing different realities. So we're not really competing ideas anymore. Where it's just like we're living in different worlds. And with social media, because it creates these echo chambers, it just solidifies these different alternative realities that don't exist, but they do in people's heads. And I think at the end of the day, we all vote in the same ballot. Our ballots all look exactly the same, right? Like me and Keith, we both live in South Windsor. Our ballots look exactly the same, but and me and Keith live in the same reality, so that's not an issue. But like, I have other friends, I have other people in South Windsor who like don't. They live in a completely different reality. They have the same ballot as I do, and they make different, and the decisions that they make is based on what they see in their own alternative reality. So,
Mhm.
and I think that's when it gets a little bit harmful.
I think, well, yeah, it can be harmful to an extent, provided those people have no idea that there's other sources out there. But at the same time, it does fall back on the individual to make those choices for themselves. Like, I'm gonna say, like, if somebody's a cult member,
Mm.
I'm not gonna like say that, oh, I should, post all these things on social media to let them know that their cult's bullshit. Like, they're allowed to believe what they want, and they should be smarter if they're an idiot. Like, that's
Yeah,
the way. That's just the way I view it. Like,
of
the people who
course.
drank Jim Jones rat poison, like, sorry, I would like to feel bad for you, but you're a fucking idiot. Sorry. Like,
No, but I
like,
mean that's
you know
like
what I
me
mean?
as like a,
Like,
of course. Yeah, yeah. And again, like, but I think there's a difference between harming an individual, like like what an individual chooses to do is on him. So if you choose to believe that drinking rat poison is like will produce the best outcome for you, that's on you, bro. But
mm,
I guess the problem is it affects for the common good of society. I just feel like our society will fall apart if we don't believe on a common, if we don't come together on under a certain truth. Uh because sure,
mm.
like one person drinking rat poison, fine. But when you get a few 100,000 people to start doing it, and then they start dying, right? 100,000 people that just died, like that affects society on a larger scale. Like with
It
COVID,
does, but
yeah.
is that not just weeding out the herd? Not to be insensitive, but like, if those people are
In that
that incensed to do that, do you know what I mean? Like,
in that
I
in
don't want to
that
sound like a
case,
dick,
yes.
but
In that case, yes. But if you take out a situation, a scenario like COVID, where again, like if you don't want
Mm,
to wear a mask, like okay, but it's not, but like, but people don't realize, like, it's not about you, because like I could be wearing a mask and you might not be wearing a mask and you could still give it to me, right? And again, like, if
Right.
people, and that's the issue. So again, like, you choosing not to wear a mask doesn't just hurt
Right.
yourself.
Once an individual choice starts infringing on the choices of other people and how they live their lives, yeah, that's a different
Right.
thing. Like things like pandemics, obviously, is not the same as like a religious cult. It's
Right.
because it doesn't apply to the other, like what you're doing in that cult doesn't necessarily apply to
Mm.
how other people are living their lives or affect how they live their lives.
But I guess that's what Shaheen is actually getting at here is, will social media eventually take us to that point where all these things that are
Uh,
going on with it start to infringe on other people's civil rights and liberties, and and whether it will become an endanger to other people, and where's that line drawn?
Yeah. But I think it's already happening, because again, you have millions of people that believe that the media, Barack Obama and Tom Hanks, are working together to run a child trafficking ring. And I mean, it's fun, it's hilarious, but but these people vote, and they're because they
oh
vote,
god.
unfortunately their opinions matter. And again, like, where do they get their information from? A source that, and
Right.
again, like, yes, they are allowed to believe that. I'm never suggesting that anyone should be jailed for the dumb shit they believe in. Like, that's part of the beauty of the First Amendment. But again, democracy works assuming everyone is somewhat informed, and then we vote on our opinions, assuming we all live under one reality. But when you have millions of people believing in these QAnon conspiracy theories, and then allowing their voice, I mean, it's not that I want to say we shouldn't allow their votes to, like, they shouldn't be allowed to vote. Again, that's not what I'm saying. But again, they do contribute. At the end of the day, they vote. So when
Mhm.
people are voting based on information that's just not true, I just think that's not good for any type of democracy.
Right. But the answer to that isn't necessarily how do I put this? Social media obviously should allow them to have those views and you know view what they want, but and the way it's done, like the fact checking stuff is done now, is kind of like it's not really the best. All those like, oh, this is mostly untrue, and like one little like blip of it was untrue. It's like I don't know how they like work that out really, but I think the biggest thing they can do is change, like tweak something in the format where it's not only showing you things that it knows you already believe in.
Mm.
So, like, let's say you believe QAnon, like, and obviously the Jeffrey Epstein stuff coming out, like, gave just fuel to the fire for that. Because, like, oh, now the elites really are doing these things. Like, now I've been vindicated if I believe those things. So that's, it's good they caught him, but it also fuels more of this shit. Um, it's, yeah, I don't know there's not really an easy answer to it.
Well,
I think
yeah.
it's partially personal responsibility, partially social media platforms doing better job of providing alternative sources to things that people are constantly exposed to also.
And that will be hard for the social media companies too, because it would require them to not, I mean, the only reason why, like, these Facebook and Instagram algorithms work the way it does is because at the end of the day, this is just the way they monetize. It's like, okay, the way we make more money if people stay on the app longer. So the way we do that is by
Right.
providing them with content that won't piss them off. So if they know that if you're a QAnon believer, by showing you more QAnon posts on your news feed, you're gonna stay on the app more. Plus, therefore, they make more money. So they would have to change their entire monetization model, and that's very hard because the way they do that is through ads. And I don't really, unless Facebook and Instagram start charging memberships to users' platforms, which they won't. Which I mean, that would be crazy if they did, but they won't. I don't really see a way around it. Now, I mean, like we don't have much time left, but do you guys see? Is there any way we, as a society, is there any coming back from this? Do you think the damage is too? He just said nah, and then he just said nah, and then just tuned out. You there, dude?
Wait,
Yeah, your picture's frozen.
am I back now?
Oh, okay, there you are. Yeah, I'm like, is there?
coming back.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm like, is there any hope? And then you're like, nah, and then just like peaced out.
No, no, I was actually in the middle of saying something. I guess that's when I got cut off. I mean, ideally, there would be.
Oh,
Yo, we just lost him.
we just lost Weapon X.
That's not good. Well, we have like a few
Yeah.
minutes left on this podcast anyway. But
All right.
so
What was the question again?
I was asking him, do you think there's a
Like,
way? Well,
is
I was
Arnie
asking
coming
both of
back?
you. Can he come back? Oh no, he can come back on the show. But no, I was saying, yeah, is there a way out of this? Is there a way we can like really undo the damage, clean it up?
I think there is, if social media platforms are held more accountable for the way they cater content. As much as they're private companies, because of the influence they can have on things like elections and people's personal choices, and even like what they consider real and not real. Even though they're private, they do have a responsibility, given that outsized influence, to provide at least adequate like information for people to make their own decisions.
Mhm.
How that would be done, I don't know. I don't agree with governments regulating businesses in general. But for something like that, seeing how it can be used in that way, it's almost necessary to a certain extent for them to have some responsibility.
I think a week ago, Steve Bannon said something on his podcast about how we should behead Dr. Fauci, and
wow.
Twitter banned him for that. Facebook's like, nah, freedom of speech, and he didn't violate the policies enough. Again, I mean, yes. Well, first of all, freedom of speech, which as much as we like it, there's even to that, there's limits, right? Like, for example, if I say I'm going to go kill this person, technically, like the government has the right to intervene at the very minimum, like investigate, like what the hell did I just say? Like, is he planning on doing something? They have the authority to search my house if they get a warrant. So if based on what I say. So basically, I mean, if you're suggesting that you should kill someone and cut their head off, like that does warrant even like some type of government response.
Yeah. And communication, as far as the First Amendment goes on the internet, is very different from in real life. Like if you're in traffic, you get caught off, I'm gonna fucking kill that guy. That's not the same thing as me writing something permanently on social media and actually posting it for everyone else to see forever. It's a different opinion. It's not the same thing. And a lot of people don't seem to understand that. It's not the same.
No. No, that's a fair point.
All right,
I guess
Are we have time pretty much, or
Yeah.
last remarks?
So yeah, we lost Farnoosh, but I guess yeah, connection went bad. But last remarks. Um, Unfortunately, I don't know if there is a way out of this. Because again, now like yeah, like you'll see Twitter and Facebook. Sometimes I'll do like a quick little fact check, but in Trump world, when they see that, it further emboldens them. You know, it means like, oh, these liberal companies are trying to fact check us. Well, now I believe in what I think even more, and now they're downloading Parler, right? That's the new app. That's the. I mean, it's been around for I think it's been around for a couple of years, but that's what they're doing now, right?
Yeah, it's been
Um,
around. Yeah, it's been around for. I don't actually remember when I first heard of it. I think it was like 4 or 5 years ago, though.
yeah,
But
but
yeah,
then that's their new echo chamber, and Trump is telling people that Fox News is liberal. Yo, like this is how dangerous, like dude, like only because they've acknowledged that Joe Biden got 306 electoral votes, so now that makes acknowledging that math makes Fox News liberal. And again, okay,
yeah,
like we laugh at that, but 72 million people who voted for that man believe it. And I think again, like this is where the danger comes in. Um, that was my last remarks. But this is definitely a cool conversation. I think could last for hours because this is an issue that continues to, in my opinion, get worse and worse every single day. And yeah, you well, yeah. What are your last remarks?
um, no, I think we're good.
You are good. All right. Well, it's
The only thing I will
actually
say that you did, uh, if you're one of those people who is complaining about Parlor and you block everyone on social media who like doesn't hold the same opinion as you, you're just as bad. That's all I'm going to say as a final remark.
yeah. I guess no. Yeah. That's fair enough. Yeah. Um. All right.
And Farnoosh doesn't get a final remark, unfortunately. But
Yeah, he lost
with
his
that,
final
guys, I
remark
think we're gonna
privileges for this
sign off.
episode. Yeah. Signing off. Well, until next time. Until next week, guys. Take care.
Peace.